Maybe hate is a big word.
I dislike
just
it.
don't like it.
Yes. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Like I wouldn't do it. I don't mind putting money in and somebody do it, but I wouldn't get involved in it.
So why not live in that property? $250,000. Live in it. Your mortgage payment, let's say it's $1,500 to $2,000, whatever. You stay in it for 2 years, 3 years. Then you gain equity, and then you buy $350,000.
Hello, everyone. So in today's real estate market, there's a lot of questions, and there's actually more questions than answers. But today, we're hoping to get more answers to those questions with the one and only Ivan Simental. ¿Cómo estás?
Good. How are you, man?
Nice to see you, bro.
You good?
Nice to see you. Good.
Yeah.
¿Cómo estás?
Can't complain.
Well, we could, but we won't. Yeah,
but who cares?
Yeah,
and,
nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about it, dude. I mean, first of all, you've been here with me before.
Yes.
We had a conversation before about you and stuff, so we're not gonna get into that.
Okay, good.
People already know you, but let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about the market. Let's talk about all this fucking confusion going on. Just today, for those of you that will probably watch this video later, but just today there was a beautiful bill pass. No tips.
Yeah.
No tax on tips.
Yes.
We'll talk about that on my live. But let's talk about the whole spectrum of real estate.
Okay.
First of all, what is your thought on the current market?
Man, I think it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But
Challenging.
also challenging, yeah. But also there's opportunity. So we see houses. So now, since the last time we talked, now I'm also flipping. So
Yeah.
I'm on the selling side.
Yeah.
And so all of our properties we're giving concessions.
Right.
And I think that's, depending on your price point, I think that's a good opportunity for buyers.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that. Rates they're staying the same, mid 6s.
Do you see that
7s.
even changing for the whole? Let's talk about the year, just the end of the year.
I think we'll stay 7s, high 6s for the rest of the year.
I agree.
I don't see that moving too much.
No. So what is the one thing right now that actually can trigger some, other than a life-changing event? I had a talk with Mitch the other day, and he was like, focus on life-changing events, because those happen.
Yeah.
And they have to make a move,
Yes.
right? So what would you say to inspire those that are in the verge of, okay, what do I do? Because there's a lot of people on the sidelines. And there's some people taking advantage.
Yes.
But then you hear the rhetoric, you hear social media, you hear all these bad things about don't buy, it's not a good time, it's going to crash. I seen 50% crash.
Yeah. That would be nice. Please.
Right?
We'll buy a lot of houses.
So what do you say to that?
I have a different approach to that.
All right, tell me.
My approach is it's a great time to buy, but it's also a very shitty time to buy. And let me explain. Because every single person is different. Like you said, life events, right? So let's take buyer A. They have bad credit, a lot of debt, no money saved. It's not a good time for them to buy. Let's create an action plan for that person, right? Pay off your debt,
Correct.
Get your credit score up, save for a little bit of closing costs or down payment, because there's down payment assistance that we can help with. And then you have buyer B, who has money, has decent credit score, has a good job. That's a good time. If it makes sense for them, a life-changing event, then they could buy, right? So I think every single person has to look at their own situation. And there's no better way than speaking with a professional so that they can guide you, right? And I think it's very, very important to work with somebody who, not just somebody that doesn't want to make a sale, right? But somebody that truly cares for you and is going to say, hey, look, you're in a good place. If you want to buy, it does make sense for you.
Yeah.
Or, hey, it doesn't make sense for you right now because of X, Y, and Z. And so that's why they need to reach out to you, reach out to us, to me, to really determine, does it make sense for me right now?
Yeah.
So that's my take on that.
And you know what? We're always talking about the consumers, right? The consumers, we try to help the consumers. We try to teach consumers. But let's switch it up a little bit. I know, and you mentioned it earlier, now you're flipping. We always look out for the consumers. We always try. But now it seems like there's also, okay, so what about myself? What about my family, right?
Yeah.
So what made you decide to go into that business now? Now, keep in mind, I hate it.
You hate flipping?
I hate flipping.
Okay.
But what made you decide to jump in that wagon?
So mine's kind of an interesting situation.
Hold on, you know what? Maybe hate is a big word.
I dislike
I just
it.
don't like it.
Yes, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Like I'm not. I wouldn't do it. I don't mind putting money in and somebody do it, but I wouldn't get involved in it.
So mine's sort of an interesting situation. My mom, she was in real estate and mortgage.
Okay.
She was a real estate agent, mortgage broker, back all the way until I was like 9 years old. And she would also flip. So I saw the benefits of her flipping. I saw the benefits of the mortgage industry for her, real estate industry for her, and I also saw when the mortgage industry crashed and how bad it was.
Yeah.
So that's why I always wanted to try flipping, because of my mom. So I finally pulled the trigger and got a partner and said, hey, dude, let's do this. And we ended up, we're doing about 6 to 7 right now.
Nice.
Houses. And so, it's my inspiration and motivation was my mom. So, that's why I wanted
And now
to try
let me ask you this, because, you always see these videos and these gurus, try to sell you the script for flipping and, it's so easy, you can get all these properties, but they never talk about losses. And I had a conversation with Ricardo Sanchez the other day. And I said, Ricardo, let's be honest, bro. He was like, you can shine all you want on social media. I mean, I know he doesn't, but some people do. And, we make so much money on this property, but what about the ones that you didn't?
Yeah.
And I know it's a risky business. I mean, it's not as simple as, I'm going to flip and that's it. I mean, you can lose money on those properties.
100%. Yeah.
So have you had a situation where
Thank
I
God.
shouldn't got this shit?
Thank God, no. But so I will tell you this, our first ever flip got delayed.
Okay.
By 4 months. So
Damn.
money costs, holding
Holding
costs,
it,
everything. And so at the end of the day, we were supposed to make like 30-ish thousand, 25, 30,000 on that property. And at the end of the day, we ended up making $10,000.
Damn.
It was still...
It was a profit.
Yes. Yeah. But you lose 20,000.
Yeah.
Appraisal came in low. We had to...
Closing costs.
Yes, closing costs, all that stuff. So we had to renegotiate with the buyer.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we still made 10,000, and it was a learning experience. It was our first ever flip. But thank God, no, we haven't lost. But it
happens. Yeah, it happens. Now, let me ask you this, because I also had a conversation with somebody, and we talked about profits, right? Let's say we have properties, and I was telling them I have this property, and I have 2-3 investors that want it. And they're all different, because at the end, I guess it depends on what kind of margins they want to have. We have investors that want to have a 40% margin. Some want 30, some I'm okay with 10, 20%.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the sweet spot for an investor that wants to start flipping? What would be that sweet spot that you say, you know what, if you're making this much, you're okay?
Man, that's a good question. I think... So I'll go for myself.
Yeah.
We're trying to make anywhere from 25 to 30,000 a property,
which is good,
right? Because there's 2 of us, so we split it. So that's what we're trying to make, 25 to 30. Obviously, if we can make more, great. Yeah. But if we're gonna make less, it really doesn't make any sense to get into that property, because the margin doesn't make any sense. Because if we take a loss, if appraisal comes in 20,000, 15,000 low, then we're like, shit. There's our money right there.
Messing that up.
So
Now, we're professionals, and we're investing, you're investing, and now what does that say to the consumer that's scared to invest, but then we're still spending money?
Yeah.
We're still investing. What would you say to that?
I think real estate has been shown that it's the best asset to have.
Right.
It's the best wealth builder there is. It beats stock. It beats everything else, real estate, because... One, you're living in it, and you see it appreciate. I think we've only had, 3 or 2 corrections where real estate has fallen, but
still higher than
exactly. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of real estate. I think it's the easiest way for a family to build generational wealth, right? So I'll give you an example. My wife's grandparents, they're leaving their house to their kids, and I think it's $500,000 they're going to be left with. So
it's a big tax bill.
100%. not if they leave it in the trust.
Oh yeah. So let me ask you: Is buying a home still the American dream?
Yeah, I think it is.
You think so?
I think it's the American dream if it makes sense for you.
Right? I saw a statistic that wasn't. It was like 40%, like 30% people agree that. And I think most of it had to do because it's not as attainable.
Yes.
And then I had a talk with Peter Guzman, and he said, like, fuck that. He goes, I don't go with that. He goes,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's not attainable. It's gonna be hard, but it's still attainable. It's still achievable, right? And then you talk about multi-generational. People are still buying with multi-generational purchases, 100%,
right? Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit about that? How does that look like?
So I wanna touch on if it's still the American dream first. So I have a client right now who she's only approved for $250,000, and she
hard.
It's a hard condo, townhouse, something. She doesn't want to buy something in that price range. But here's what I tell people that are approved for a low amount: you're still going to rent $1,500, $2,000, whatever times 12, 24,000, right? That you're throwing away, or renting, whatever. Why not live in that property, $250,000, live in it. Your mortgage payment, let's say it's $1,500 to $2,000, whatever. You stay in it for 2 years, 3 years, then you gain equity, and then you buy $350,000,
like a stepstone, right?
Exactly. Use it as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way. Unless you get another job or unless you get a raise, you're not going to be able to buy anything else.
Right.
So
you're stuck.
What's the saying? Time in the market beats timing the market, right? So I'm a huge fan or a huge believer of, like, hey, start somewhere, and then
and I think it all comes down to mindset. I had several people like that, and there's always, and I post videos about it too, because I mean, it doesn't make sense for somebody to say, look, if I can't buy a house, I'm not going to buy anything. And as much as you tell them, look, the longer you wait, the farther away from you is going to be. But what kind of mindset, or it's hard to change somebody's mindset about spending or investing in their future too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their future, right? And it's so hard to get them out of their little thought about, no, I'm not going to buy a townhome. I got to buy a house.
Yeah. When you first got into real estate, what did $250,000 get you? A decent house, right?
Back then, yeah.
So you're right. Like, you're going to be priced out.
Yeah.
If you don't get in now, you're eventually going to be priced out. But I think your mindset needs to be like, okay, I'll start from the bottom, right? Like, my first house.
Be humble.
Exactly.
Be humble.
Yes, be humble. And my first house was, I think, 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah.
And then we kept upgrading.
Yeah.
But I'm doing what I'm telling you to do.
Right. Exactly.
And
that's what some people don't understand.
Yeah,
like, look, I'm not just fucking spitting shit out because I want to say. I'm telling you, like, I've seen this shit.
I did. This was my thing. I started with $300,000 house. Was my first house. We sold it, bought another one, lived in that one for a little bit, sold it, and then we're in a $750,000 house that is now worth $1.1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
All because I kept upgrading. I was gonna pay rent regardless.
Somewhere.
Why not just put into a house?
And regardless, and then you also have those buyers or those customers that are living in condos, townhomes, and that's their option.
Yeah.
To buy a condo, townhome, but then they don't want to. I was like,
why?
But anyways.
But some people you just can't change.
You just can't. You just can't. And as much as you try to help them, it's like, you know what? I'm sorry. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't help you.
Yeah.
Multi-generationals coming up. I mean, they're growing. Parents, sons, kids, family members.
We're seeing that a lot.
You've seen that in the race?
Yes. Yeah? So parents and kids buying houses together. Or they'll buy a 4-unit property. So hey, I'll live in one. We'll live in one. And I think that's what you have to do now. It's kind of like in LA. Well, my mom lives in LA, and when she was doing it, it was like 3 families sometimes.
I think you and I would have to buy together.
Yeah, 100%,
that shit.
My mom's house is, I think, like 2,300 square feet, and it's like 1.4, 1.5. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Here it would be a $400,000 house. That's crazy.
Fucking LA market is horrible.
Yeah, it's good for realtors, but
one fucking deal.
Yeah, you're good.
I have some friends in LA that doing business. I was like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
I have a friend that she's closing like 150 deals, and I'm like, damn.
Jeez, that's nice.
I think her medium price point is like 1.2, 1.3 or something like that.
I don't know how, like, I wonder if Vegas is gonna come to that or close to it.
I mean, I've heard some things about, like, you know, Vegas turning into the next LA. Now we got, you know, all this Hollywood, 2.0 and all this Mark Wahlberg investing here and all this stuff with the studios. I mean, as much as I want to say that the market will get better for that medium income, households, it looks farther away.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's getting farther away.
I agree.
Especially with everything coming in. You got the stadium, you got the monorail, you got the studios, you got the new Summerlin area, you got the new Northern Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Now you got this new issue, or not issue, but you got this thing where now they're selling all this federal land so we can continue building. I mean, that's more properties, that's more migration.
Build, yeah. Growth
from California and all these places. Mm-hmm. And people are just going to get up. Now, the question, I guess, and I don't know if we don't have the answer, but the question is, when is the income
that's
going up?
That's the killer, right? That's really what is making homeownership unattainable.
Yeah.
Because California still has somewhat higher salaries, higher hourly wages, but in Vegas, I think we're still, probably 10 years behind?
Yeah, I think it was like a $40-some thousand.
Yeah. And
you need two incomes at least, yeah.
At least 2.5.
Yeah.
To buy something $500,000-$600,000.
Yeah.
Unless we see rates, which we're not. I don't think we're going to see rates 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
I mean, we hope so.
I would want it, please.
But, no, so it's so hard. It's so hard. I don't think we'll see that at least in the time I'm alive.
I don't think
we'll
so
see it. But so what about? I know I love your videos. I love the stuff that you do, and it's so funny because I see them and you're so calm and you're so like collective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this motherfucker. Like, what? But tips. What tips would you give the consumers for the upcoming years in regards to real estate?
If your plan is to buy within the next year, even a year and a half, mm-hmm. I say get with a professional. What we talked about in the beginning, get with a professional who can build out a plan, mm-hmm. right? Who could connect you with their trusted real mm-hmm. estate agent or their trusted loan officer, because them together will help you build out a plan. Like, hey, you're not ready right now, but if you do X, Y, Z mm-hmm. in 6 months to a year, you might be ready, right? Mm-hmm. So you have your blueprint laid out. But it's very, very important to find somebody that you trust. Look at their reviews. Look at who your family has used. Mm-hmm. Look at who you trust on social media if that's the route you want to go. But really build out a plan as to what do I need to do, right? Yeah. Some people think, oh, man, I can't buy right now because I'm not pre-approved. I don't have all the money, right? I don't have the 20% down.
Yeah.
And then I talk to them like, oh, no, you're approved for $400,000. Your down payment is 3%. You're good to go if you want to buy right now. And they're like, yeah. What, really? Yeah, you have good credit. You have income. You have a down payment. You're good. Yeah. So that's why I speak with a professional, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't diagnose myself something medical because I'm not a doctor.
Right. Yeah,
so we would go like, okay.
We could.
You could go to WebMD and like, oh my God, this says I'm gonna die next month.
Yeah. Or Google.
Or yeah, you go to the professional, right? Yeah. And ask them for advice. If your teeth is hurting, you go to the dentist, right? If your eyes, you go to the optometrist, right?
Yeah. So. Now, what about to finish this up? What about industry? Let's talk about lenders.
Yeah.
If they're struggling, if there's a struggle, what would you suggest for them to do? What has been successful for you? Let's put it that way.
Honestly, social media has been my biggest mm-hmm. asset. I think that's how you and I connected mm-hmm. via DMs and just talking. And it's the easiest way to connect with realtors. Yeah. Because they're already on their phone. They're already on social media. So I feel like that's the easiest way. Create good content. And don't be scared to ask for the business, right? And
don't be scared.
Yeah. The worst they can say is no. I'm like, okay, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Or I sent a message last night actually to a couple of people I wanted to talk to. They haven't responded, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they will.
Maybe they won't. Yeah. But at least you're out there.
Yeah. You're working it.
We're so scared to get shot down.
To rejection. Right?
Yeah. It's like it's part of life.
I cold called, dude.
Yeah, that's fun. That's hard. That's
I'm
hard,
not scared of rejection.
No, trust me. I've never cold called.
You never cold called?
I've never cold called.
I cold called for like my first 5 years in business.
That's wild.
But for that, I mean, it's good to say that back in 2005 2005, 6, 7 till like 2008, it was a different market.
Yeah.
It was a different market. People actually use their landlines.
Yeah. Nah.
So
I
we
don't
call
remember-
landlines.
Do people still
I mean,
have
I don't
those?
think your assistant knows what a landline is. You know, and like, you know, people answered.
Yeah.
People were at home.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can't reach them. Nobody. You know what's so funny? I saw a post yesterday that said, you know, back in the days, I remember where we used to wait till 9 p.m. so we can have unlimited talk on the cell phones.
Dude, yes.
And now we pay for unlimited talk, but we don't use it.
It's always texting.
Yeah,
texting,
so like,
yeah.
damn,
That's
time
crazy.
changes.
Yeah,
Time changes.
I don't. Clients, it's crazy because some clients don't want to be called. Just text or
Yeah.
email. I'm like, okay, but what if it's something important? It's okay, just put it in an email. I'm like, it's your preference. That's fine.
It's so weird, huh?
Yeah, but everybody has their preference.
Yeah, that is true.
Just like how some people love to go out, others don't.
True that.
Socialize, don't socialize.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So, Ivan, appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for
Appreciate
being
you,
here.
man. Yeah,
and
absolutely,
we'll
man.
see you guys in the next one. Ivan Simental. Your information?
You can find me on all social media at It's Ivan Simental.
It's Ivan.
Yeah, it's Ivan Simental. You can text 562-481-8821.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.